Hey, yo, everybody. This is another installment of Finding Sensibility, where we take positive or inspirational quotes, see if we can make them work in our day-to-day lives or if they're just a product of their times. Today's quote comes with a bit of a disclaimer. I try to avoid preaching in the topics that we talk about, but today I can tell you that's going to be a little bit difficult, but I'm going to do my best, so bear with me. Today's quote, "You give but a little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give." All right. Today's quote comes from Khalil Gibran. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correct. He was a Lebanese American artist and poet, and he's most known in America for his book written in 1923 called The Prophet. So, this quote clashes with the materialistic nature of our culture and our society big time. And again, I'm really going to try to not preach about that idea, but it's going to be really hard to find the alternative and not make it about just being so selfish with our time and that sort of stuff. So, you give but a little when you give of your possessions. What does that mean? First thing that comes to mind is money. If you're talking about money, that is essentially the first possession that you're going to offer somebody that needs help. You could be offering furniture or clothing or vehicles, any other possession obviously, but mainly what this comes down to in my mind is money, where if somebody needs help, generally the solution is to give them money. But beyond that, what has become so much more commonplace is to loan somebody money rather than to just give it freely. Which I'm not trying to speak against that. I understand. And whenever I take money or possessions or anything like that from a friend or from someone I know, I generally either want to give it back in full or I want to find a way to work it off. So I'm not saying that in and of itself is wrong. However, that is immediately where we tend to go with things like this. You need some help? I'll give you some money and then you can just pay me back whenever. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. Partially, I feel like that's because you can't actually get anything back. When I give you money, there's a bit of an expectation that I'm going to get that money back or I'm going to get a service to compensate for that money. If I give of myself, I don't have a way to get that back. There's not an exchange ratio for something like that. So I think in a lot of ways, we have become much more selfish and self-centered as a society to where if I'm going to give you something, whether it's my work, my time, my effort, my ideas, anything like that, I'm going to do it so that I can get something back. And if I give somebody my ideas, or if I give somebody just a shoulder to cry on, or a couple hours to just listen to somebody talk about what's going on with them and what their trials and tribulations are, number one, I don't get that time back, and number two, I don't really get anything from it except knowing that I helped you. And it seems like that's not enough for some people. There is such a quid pro quo idea that permeates everything we do for each other, and I hate that. And part of the reason I hate it is because I'm so susceptible to it. Anytime somebody does something for me, I almost feel guilty if I can't do or give something back to them almost immediately. So it's very, very frustrating to have this dynamic permeate so many things about our society. It's an idea I've talked about before where you just have to restrict your expectations on your interactions. If you are only doing something so that you can get somebody something back, or you're giving something to somebody so that they give you something back, that's a very selfish way to help. And at the same time, bend but don't break. If you're going to bend over backwards for somebody to try to help them out, that's one thing. But if you're going to break for them, that's a line you cannot cross. Nothing and nobody is worth breaking for. So, bend as far as you can, but as soon as you feel like you're going to break for this other person, don't do it. That's not help anymore. Now it is taking advantage of. Now it is abusing your friendship or your willingness to give or your willingness to help. So have that line in the sand. Pay attention to your expectations and pay attention to how far you're actually able to go for somebody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay real.